Hello, everybody. It's me, Madame Sensei. It's summertime, and my colleagues are not around for me to bounce crazy ideas off of. And so I thought maybe I'll just make a video because I need to kind of think through everything and I need to at least talk out loud and hear my own voice. And then this way I can share this video with all the people on all the different professional learning communities I belong to. And maybe you guys can help me flesh this out. But this is not an official video, okay? This is just me thinking about my thinking. So, time was, I did this amazing, epic, fake Tour de France around my school, and it was so incredible, and I loved doing it, and the students loved doing it, and they came up with some great stuff. But the last couple of years have been not so great. The law of diminishing returns kicked in. And I don't know, you know, I mean, part of it is we're struggling to get to that 90% in the target language. I don't know why my numbers didn't come out. 90% in the target language. And suddenly the students just weren't doing it in the planning stages. They were just talking in English and just kind of half-assing it and throwing something together at the last minute. And I felt like that was a week of them talking in English when they could have been in French. And I'm thinking about it, and is it because of generative AI? No, because the two times my students tried to do that during this assignment, I was rolling on the floor laughing because I always have them try their skits on me first before I let them record. And the one newscaster was like, "How'd you know I Google translated?" And I'm like, "Because you just said something nasty about the weather reporters. That's why." It's so obvious when you Google translate, when you Bing translate, when you machine translate. Generative AI is no different. But generally my students don't turn to that unless I haven't given them enough scaffolding. But I don't know, just having them make a sports cast, they just weren't bringing their A game suddenly. And I don't know if that's because, you can tell my mouse is broken, huh? That's because just, the kids are just, they're thinking about other stuff. Or, the thing I want to blame always is the phones, because the second I say, yes, you may take your phones out to film yourselves, then they're on their phones doing other dumb stuff. And they're just not engaged at all. So for the last 2 years, I haven't done my beautiful Tour de France, which I really love doing. And what it all comes down to is if the students aren't responding to it, it's not really the student's fault. It's my fault. I'm the teacher. I'm the one who's supposed to know what is going to engage my students. So 2 years ago, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to hang up the Tour de France for a while until the students until I figure out what is making the students tick, basically. So, in the back of my mind, because I really love talking about Le Tour de France, I think it's funny when things go wrong, and I like to show that. And I've got some students who are very enthusiastic about it. I have students who have gone to La France and seen it in person, and I've got lots of cycling enthusiasts, and I really do want to use Le Tour de France to teach some language, But in the back of my head is kicking around the fact that my students love any card game we do. I can easily keep them in the target language if we're playing a card game, even though the card game isn't, this is gamification, right? It's not game-based learning when you're using a card, because never in real life are you going to be playing cards. Well, okay, sometimes I did play cards and when I went to other countries, but it's not really a skill. It's how they use the language when they're playing it. And the students are 100% invested when we have you can hear my mouse is broken, it keeps beeping. They're 100% invested when we do our Uno test, when we do our apples to apples test, when we're playing quiz trade, when, I don't even remember if this is Go Fish or whatever we're doing. The students, during a card game, they are completely engaged. The other thing I had kicking around in my head is this great book, The Strategic Teacher by Silver, Strong, and Perini. And they have a teams game tournament, which I like a lot, but it's a bit clunky, and I found better ways to do it. I decided to combine it with a board game. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. And I have this board game that we made in the Duolingo Educators Network one year. And truth be told, I kind of pulled it out of my posterior at the last minute when the students weren't responding to something. And I'm like, okay, we're pivoting, because flexibility is the name of the game when you're a teacher, right? So we're pivoting. I have these cards already made up for this other game we were about to play. Let's just do this thing I was trying to do as a board game. The students loved it. And here, this was when Duolingo came to film my school, and they were just amazed at this game. And like I said, this was just something that was born out of a moment of desperation, a quick pivot, and I had a nice board game that the students love. And I can swap out the cards and use any cards whatsoever. And I've explained this in my playlist for game-based learning. The other thing I do is that I have 36 students per class in some of my classes, and so I have 6 table groups. And I'm going to show you my tables in a second because that's going to help me think through things. And I named each of the table groups after some target language speaking country or city or area. Okay, so this is my French class. I've got La Belgique, Le Djibouti, La France, Le Luxembourg, Le Madagascar, Quebec, and I just named them. And the students, maybe I should just unplug my mouse so it doesn't beep. The students got so into that. They love getting table points. And this is a guided language acquisition design technique. They love getting table points. They get so competitive. Gosh, my health class over the summer was so competitive. I think I talked about that in the Wayground video. One of my French classes last year, they bought themselves a Djibouti flag and they draped it over the table. I was going to show the picture of that, but I can't find the picture right now. And I'm just thinking through it. So I don't really care how bad this video is. It's just me thinking aloud. So anyway, they get really into that. And I thought, let me lean in on that. My tables are these big, they're chemistry lab tables. And my chemistry teacher colleague was going to, he's gonna throw them away. He got better tables, and these were like heading to the dumpster. And I told my principal at the time, wait, are those tables going to the dumpster? Hold on, bring them to my class instead. Because I used to have those dumb pupitre. I used to have those dumb desk attached with a bar to the chair. And every time I'd have the students jump up to fence or I fooled my Japanese students one year. I told them we were going to do sumo wrestling and they panicked. But every time I had them jump up and sing or dance, they kept hitting their shins on the tables. So I'm so happy to have the chemistry tables now. I love them to pieces. And I have experimented with, this is not the brand that I have. Whoops, the mouse just died again. I've experimented with these neon markers, marking up the table. And I got to thinking, what if I did a giant board game where the students drew on the table, they drew the board on the table that they were going to be moving their pieces across. And it was this giant thing that hopped across all the countries. Now, I did experiment with the markers before, and what happened was the next class started smudging them deliberately because what's this mark on the table? And so I don't know, maybe I'll try the markers again, or maybe I'll just lay out butcher paper on the table and have the students color on the butcher paper. I've got tons of butcher paper because it's a game-based classroom, got lots of stuff. I might have the secretaries laminate it, but I think part of the fun is going to be, hey, in your group, in your team, you decide the board that is going to go across your tables. And I could do that for every single class. I only have 2 French classes next year, but they're 36 students apiece, so they're going to be huge. But I was just thinking that would be really engaging, right? The other thing I have kicking around in my head is I've got a bunch of craft books. And this one is, I've never had an occasion to pull it out before. This is all about, I don't know why it's about the Romans, but they have an Arc de Triomphe craft in here. So sometimes my students come in and I have a craft for them or an art project. and they have to show me that they understand it by following the directions and creating the art. And I thought, oh, well, I've got this, and I also have a La Tour Eiffel art project that I've done before in the past, but I just haven't pulled it out in many years. And I was thinking of the game of life. That part of the fun is snapping the pieces in, and it's all 3D and everything. And I was like, oh, if each country had their own thing that they had to make, like, the Le Tour de France is going to end under the Arc de Triomphe. It's got to end under there. And, I've got the Eiffel Tower. They can make that too. And, maybe I'm thinking for Quebec, I can get those see-through Legos, and they can make the carnival for the bonhomme, his palais, his castle, that's made of snow and ice and stuff. And I'm not sure what I'm gonna do for Djibouti yet, but I'm like, for each country, what could I have them do that's 3-dimensional that they could incorporate into the board? All right, so next thing I went and did is I made a big book for all of the table groups. And I don't know why I never thought of this before, because this is golden, right? And the big book is another guided language acquisition design technique. It's just very, very simple writing, kind of repetitive. And this was really great because I could get into all that culture that sometimes we just don't have enough time in the week to get to. So here's the Lego thing I was thinking of doing. All right, and I'm thinking maybe for Madagascar, I'm gonna get a package of insects, like a plastic insects. Maybe I can find some yellow spiders, or maybe I can paint them or something, and we can put those around, right? Because when we're talking about Madagascar, and we've done these big books before, but never to the depth that I'm doing now. Here's Luxembourg. We're talking about, for each big book, I talk about the food, I talk about the artists. I talk about just anything interesting I can find about it. Oh, here's Luxembourg. There's food, because there's a lot of interesting. Any kind of, the students just love talking about food. Let's just face it, they love talking about food. Oh, here's La Belgique. Okay, gotta talk about this. The students are gonna go crazy when they find out. I've never had the opportunity to talk about mannequin piece before. Never. So this is gonna be really cool. Um, we're just outside of Seattle, so they really understand the Space Needle. So I can talk about atomium, right? Of course, talk about Hergé and stuff. Oh, here's Djibouti. So we can talk about some interesting animals, right? Students love animals. Oh, here's l'Île de France. We're gonna talk about Notre Dame de Chartres and all that. So anyway, it's super easy to do this, and you can really dive deep into the stuff that you don't think you have time to dive deep into. Then I went to a couple online places looking for, as long as we're doing a board game, I could take out my game pieces, but wouldn't it be fun if I could find little party favor toy bikes? I'll bet they exist. And sure enough, they exist. And so I found a bunch, and I think I'm going to go with this one because it had the best reviews for not breaking. And then I'm trying to think about how to put all the coolness of Le Tour de France into the game. Okay, so something that's interesting is that the winner isn't necessarily the winner of every single stage. And in each stage you've got people who specialize in things. There's the sprinters who go fast, and so when we're making our board, I'm going to say, okay, Djibouti, you have this many spaces have to be flat areas, and this many spaces have to be hilly areas, and then we have the climbers, the camper. So they're going to go fast in the hilly section, the mountain section. Domestique is pretty much everyone who's going to help the leader, because I think that's really cool. And then, of course, the leader is the one that they're going to try and get across the finish line. So this cooperation is what I'm really looking for. And you'll notice here, I don't think I'm going to change this screen much. When I give my directions, I always give my directions in English, because I really, really want to make sure my students understand how to play the game, and they're really invested in the game, and they're not stressed over the game. I don't want to raise their affective filter in the game. Sorry, this is over 10 minutes long, but this is not really for YouTube. This is for me to think aloud. One thing I really hate about games is when there's a game where the students are waiting their turn. Like Jeopardy. I will not play Jeopardy whole class. Occasionally, very rarely, I break up little groups and I say, make your own Jeopardy game. You're going to give it to the other. Djibouti, you're going to make a Jeopardy game for Madagascar. Madagascar, you're going to make a Jeopardy game for Luxembourg or whatever. But I don't like it when students are sitting there waiting their turn because they're spacing out. They're looking out the window. They're trying to sneak out their phone, whatever. I don't want passivity. So one thing that's going to happen here is when I take out the cards to ask them questions, everybody's got to write it on their board because it's a race, right? Write it on your board. Then they'll show me, and then I'll have them take a card out of a bag. And I was thinking it should be dice, but no, it's not going to be dice because I want something fun to happen. So at first I thought, okay, I've got all my card games that are always like this template. I'm like, no, that's too small because I want everyone in the class to see what card you pulled because that's going to be funny. All right, so I was thinking about the hazards that could happen. Like sometimes people throw the racers throw their water bottles out, and the crowds try to grab the water bottles, or the other bikes will trip over them or whatever. There have been dogs that have jumped out onto the path. There have been fans who are like you can get so close to the athletes. It's kind of incredible. You can have a flat tire. You can be coming down a mountain and you lose control. You can lose all your energy because you didn't have enough calories to get you through the race. There have been times where they had to pause the race because there's cows crossing the road or a train is crossing and everyone has to stop and wait for the train. There's the feed zones, and I was thinking everyone would have to slow down the feed zone. So this is my thinking right here as I just made my notes. And then these are examples of the cards I've come up with. Okay, so some of the cards, actually the majority of the cards are going to be basically if you roll the dice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and I have listed on here some reason that you're a good racer because there's, you're either in good physical fitness or your team's helping you or whatever. So I've got 1 through 6, and I'll print that like 3 or 4 times. I haven't decided yet. That's why I need to think aloud, right? And then because I find it fascinating that it's a team sport, even though only one person is going to get across the line first. So I really wanted to give my students the feeling of you're helping your leader out. You're working hard to get your team, your leader, across the finish line first. So this may or may not be my final card. I don't know yet. I don't know how much English I want to put on here, but I really want the students understanding that if the leader pulls one of the dangerous cards and they pull this, they can protect the leader from whatever danger has just happened. Okay, but there is a consequence for it. So still thinking that through. Here's another one, just a fan jumps out in the way, and so you don't get to move, and anyone who's to the left or the right of you also can't move. So again, I'm thinking about how much English and how much French to put on each card. They're coming down the mountain here. They're too fast, and they lose control. But if they're grimpeur, if they're the mountain climbing specialists, then they're only going to go back 1 space instead of 3. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, I've got to do le peloton. How am I going to do le peloton? Because that's also cool. This is kind of like how geese fly to stop the wind from buffering them too much. So I finally decided, I think I'm going to do this. Instead of your typical board that's, like just 1 row, I'm going to make the board be 3 rows across. So if people want to try and pass each other, they can. And this way they can form le peloton. If they pull the card, they say to do it, and then it would give them an extra boost if they could do it. Okay, and then I know I've got a lot written here because this is all my notes thinking about like what I'm going to do. This is my rough draft for instructions for each of the tables for what I want them to draw, however they want to do it, okay? They have to have, the first row has to be le grand départ, has to be the starting line, of course, and the last line has to be la ligne d'arrivée. Oh, the other thing is, because students are so freakishly bad at geography nowadays, I thought, this is such a great way to do our map talks. look, these are the countries that border you, La Belgique, okay? So, indicate where they are in your game board. And that will at least reinforce it for 6 students in the class, right? Okay, so then I want to have, this one I was thinking about because the weather can sometimes play a really big part in Le Tour de France. So I have Dungeons and Dragons dice. I'm a nerd. All right, so if I have them make a couple of rows be weather, we can take out the Dungeons and Dragons weather dice and roll them, and oh no, it's snowing. Everybody has to go back 2 spaces, or whatever. It's going to be really funny if it snows in Djibouti. That's going to be great. Okay. And then there's going to have to be a place where they need to eat. Okay. And so I said 3 rows for that, and then everybody, if they pull a number card there, they'll be half speed. 8 rows here that are going to be the flat, and 8 rows that are going to be the mountainous stage. And in the big book, we go over what are the flat areas of the country and what are the mountainous areas of the country. That's the part I've never gotten to before, never ever. And then reminding them what are some of the terrain features that they might want to incorporate into their map. And then some extra stuff if they want to do it. This is the baked potato, as Dr. Moore says. This is the basic stuff that I want. And then if they want to go above and beyond, that would make me really happy. There's going to be a train here, and if somebody lands on it, I'm going to roll the dice, and if it's, I think, maybe 1 and 2, I'm going to have the train come out, and so everyone has to stop. Who's there or behind has to stop and wait for the train. Anyone who's already past can go on, and then we'll make La Tomion and make sure that you incorporate in your design, and telling them where La Flamme Rouge is, this is basically where they'll do their breakaway if they're in Le Peloton, and then the final line. So for Madagascar, there's no train that runs through Madagascar, so instead they're going to have a herd of zebu come through if they land there. All right. So let's see. I know I'm way over 20 minutes now. Oh yes. So I designed a bunch of maillot, the jerseys, and I want them to design it for their teams. They get to color it in, and I think Senorita Spanish was talking about alfombras, and she just has them do it on coloring paper, and I thought, well, maybe I could do something like that for the team jerseys, and then they can describe what colors they use and stuff like that. But then, because I like to sew, I went and I cut out in felt, because felt is really easy to work with, a bunch of, these are tiny, I don't know, you can't really see the scale here. They're smaller than my fist, okay? They're smaller than they're about the size of my palm, all right? And you can see I haven't decorated them yet. I was going to sew like little logos, company logos and everything on there. And that's what I need to talk about. So I was going to sew company logos on, and a couple other things, like, I've got a lot of white ones because some of them are going to be Les Rois de Montagne. They're going to be the polka dot ones, and some of them are going to be for the best young rider. And I started doing that, and I thought, yeah, that is a lot of work for all, like, if I have 6 countries and doing this for all my French classes, that's a lot of work. So I think I'm going to run down to the craft store and buy fabric glue just to make my life a little easier. But I do have fun doing this, so it's not really work, And I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if the winners, I give them a safety pin, and they got their little tiny jersey, which is the size of the bike, right? But after class, they can pin it to their backpack and walk around school with their little award on their backpack. I just thought that would be really fun. And the other thing I left off, I was going to put a slide up, is here, wait, let me pause. Just had to flip to my other flip chart. I'm working on potential sponsors. I'm going to show them a bunch of commercials and say, these guys could be your sponsors. Decide who's going to sponsor your team. So I found some funny commercials. This was the woman picks up the phone, and there's this raspy voice on the other end saying, I'm in your basement, but it's really her mother with a sore throat. So, and then we're We're going to talk about escargot, which we have talked about before, but again, it doesn't hurt revisiting that, right? Oh, and they're going to be surprised to learn that the shells you reuse, you wash them just like dishes. So this is just my really quick thing. Monoprix has a beautiful commercial that it just makes me cry every time I see it. I love that commercial. I'm going to show them that. Show them what it's like inside. Carrefour is a typical sponsor for Le Tour de France. So we're going to talk about that. We'll look at some YouTube videos of people walking through Carrefour. We'll look at some commercials. Godiva is out of La Belgique. So got to talk about that, of course, and so some commercials for that. Macado, of course, found a great one for Canada. At Ubisoft, right out of Canada, right out of Quebec. Can't find this, blocked on my school computers. So as I think about it, I've got to find a good Ubisoft commercial. It makes me so mad. I can't find. Well, I mean, like all their commercials are blocked. So, and it's got to be in French, Renault, the car company. Mirapolis. I'm trying to put together a little Minecraft education thing where my students rebuild Mirapolis, because I think that would be really fun. So, might as well show them the commercial again here. Parc Asterix, might as well show them the commercial. They could have Parc Asterix sponsor them if they want. The Hergé Museum in La Belgique. I went through all my stuff and said, what could I pull out and pretend that they were sponsors? So anyway, just thinking about all that. And here we are back at where I was trying to organize my thoughts together. And that's pretty much it. I've gone like 25 minutes now, just talking aloud, trying to think through this because there's a lot of moving pieces, but I'm having fun designing it, so I don't really mind the work. I mean, it's summer vacation, and it's nice to have a brain where I can think about crazy stuff like this. And I really think that my students' investment in creating the game is going to be absolutely amazing. So even though it's really just a skin for whatever I want to pull out of, French 1 is not going to be able to do, I don't know, passé composé, right? So it's okay. I can swap out their cards. I can say, all right, French 1, we're playing the Tour de France, and you are doing adjectives. So every time I pull a card, it's going to be a question about matching an adjective to a noun. Write it on your whiteboards. That's what I want them to do anyway, right? Français 2, they're going to be able to do something more advanced. Français 3, Français 4, they're going to be able to get really, really advanced with this. But it's okay because it's like any game. I can scale it. It's got the differentiation built right in. And I really think, like, if I start my Français 2 class at the beginning of the year, hey, we've got to review some stuff. But you know what? We're going to be playing this giant classroom game. The review is going to be so quick and so easy, and they're going to be so invested in it. I'm really looking forward to this. It's not all that much work, and if it works, then I'll have it forever, right? This whole concept forever, and I feel good about it. So please help me think about game mechanics, especially. How many number cards should I have in relation to how many danger cards? Because right now I'm thinking 3 times as many number cards as there are danger cards. But maybe that's not a very good, maybe that's not very balanced. If you can think of other fun stuff to put in here, if you can think of other fun ways just to make it more tangible, yeah, comment below. Thank you for listening this long. Thank you, everyone who's in all the professional learning communities I belong to, for hearing me out and giving me ideas and letting me bounce ideas off of you. Hope to hear from you soon.